Hi and welcome to our program. Today Jonas Bach is going to show us around Gellerup while telling us about its past, present and a little bit about the future. Let's check it out.
Then instead focusing on the people who are actually convicted of crime or who are not adhering to the rules and punishing them is a better way of doing it, at least in some viewpoints. So there's a lot of debate on this also in Gellerup, on what is the right way of going about it, and I know there's been some frustration also among people here about it's been very difficult to get people out of apartments even though they were acting in bad ways, and that's also been an issue, because then the people, if you have to wait a year for a neighbor who is stealing your stuff or kicking on your door or selling drugs, if you have to wait a year for that guy to be kicked out of his apartment, then you move. Yeah. Because you don't want to wait for that, and you don't want to risk your family, the security of your family, or that you will get into trouble somehow. Okay. So there's a lot of you can say protection of individual rights in the Danish system of law, and also in the regulations of housing units, and that can sometimes be a challenge, I think, in order for these to make these things work, also because they're quite long waiting times to go to court, for instance. So even though you are found by the police and they take you in, then they'll send you back home and wait for a court case to be processed. So it's very complicated, and there's no easy solution to it, and there's a lot of ups and downs in everything, I think. So.
And in your PhD thesis, you also focused a lot in why people stay and why people move. Yeah. So this was one of the reasons for people moving?
That could be a reason that particular neighbors were causing some kind of problems. But for many people it was the insecurity. Okay. Because of course it was also this particular time period where there was a lot of insecurity, and there still is quite a lot of insecurity. But especially in 2018, there were a lot of the people that I talked to who said, we don't want to be here anymore because we don't feel like
was it a big percentage?
Can be sure. I don't know if it was a big percentage, because it's difficult always to,
you don't talk to everybody.
Identify why do people move out, because people move out every year, all the time. Course. Other people move in, but from the people I talked to, it was a significant percentage who said that I can't see myself here in this insecurity, not knowing whether I will be whether I can stay in my apartment for 1 year or 5 years or 10 years, or
so it's more so like the insecurity of this being temporary or not like a safety.
Not knowing. But also sometimes in terms of, because before when this was all a building site, a building site with large trucks and everything, it doesn't feel safe, and there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of mud. And that also factored in for some of the people, that there was this constant rearranging, moving stuff around, trucks moving in, trucks moving out, and that's not particularly nice living in that. And if you at the same time don't know if you will be able to stay to reap the benefits of all this work, then why stay when you can move somewhere else? And I think some people made that decision at that time, but there's a lot of other people who stayed. Also at the presentation I did last week at the Postkassefortællinger, there were quite a few residents there, also some of the ones who've told their stories.
So the ones that were forced to move out, or?
Yeah, but who've stayed in other apartments
okay.
And they are still living here, and don't want to move. And like it here because they have they raise their families, they have friends, they have family here.
They build their community.
They have their networks, they have a community here. So that's often the reason for people wanting to stay. It's about the community, it's about all these social structures that are here. And because of the activities, because there's always something happening in Gellerup. So there is something about this place that is it kind of makes people feel emotional, I think, in a way. So that was probably the main reason I've heard for people wanting to stay, was this emotional connection to the estate.
Okay.
And of course, some people you have great views from these blocks. For instance. You have nice apartments. So if you live in one of these places, it's a very attractive view. It's a decent price, and the rooms feel nice and so on. So a lot of people who live high up in these apartments are quite happy about living there.
Yeah.
And you can also see it on the number of people moving in and out is significantly lower for the higher floors than it is for the lower floors.
Okay.
So there are definitely some qualities of life here, like the associations who are here,
but this is more recent, right?
It's more recent, yeah. But also the youth work and a lot of the people who've been engaged in community work are like significant people in the neighborhood. So there's a lot of community as well, even though there's also a lot of tension and a lot of different ways of living in Gellerup, because some people just live here and they go to school or they go to work and come back and stay in their apartments. But a lot of people are also out and about and active in community, and there's both things exist here. There's definitely people who are not part of the general community, but there's also a lot of people who enjoy being a part of the active Gellerup.
Yeah.
I think we should move up to with the other new parts.
That would be great.
But it's also typical of Gellerup is a lot of people being shown around. I saw this group over here before being shown around. There were some people being shown around just down here.
I didn't notice.
There's always a lot of...
It's like a potential new residence?
Not so much, I think, but also people working with development of cities, students.
Okay.
People visiting from other estates, other municipalities, politicians. Yeah, a lot of people are interested in Gellerup.
Yeah. It's quite interesting. It's so diverse.
Yeah.
And especially because of Basarvest, there's so many people that come here only because of Basarvest.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the only reason for a lot of people coming from the outside to go to Gellerup before was to go to Basarvest. But now there's a lot more going on inside Gellerup, so to speak.
Yeah, so people can do a lot of other things. Yeah, it is quite nice. I've also read somewhere that the number of visitors, it's just increasing.
Yeah, it's increasing, yeah. And that's also been, part of what they wanted to do with some of these things was to create like an attraction that people could come here. Yeah, okay. I think also we could just have a look over here.
So which building is this one?
This is one of the newest buildings. This is Sports and Culture Campus.
Okay.
But I think what you can see over here is some banners saying no to demolition.
Okay.
So we're not moving.
So these were one of the...
Yeah, these blocks here that you see, that part here, there's, I think there's 7 blocks down here. And they are like going, more or less all of them. I can't remember if they all are planned to be demolished.
Okay, so a big amount.
This is where the new school is supposed to be over here somewhere.
Okay.
And some of the Rækkehuse, like the tourist housing and other housing types are going to be built over there if things go according to the plan. So I think a lot of that's also the reason why you can see a lot of these banners on these buildings is because they are singled out for demolition.
Okay.
So but this is brand new.
And just a question about this: where are these people gonna move into if they choose to stay?
Some of these buildings that are staying, because the tall blocks I think are all staying. Okay. And also, of course, on the other side, there's Tovesøy, where a lot of the buildings are also gonna stay put.
Okay.
But it's also
It's just not nice when you're leaving somewhere to feel like it's temporary. That's not what you want. So it must be very tiring to have been through this process.
Yeah, and it's because it just keeps coming back.
Yeah, exactly.
They were discussing this in 2010-11. They were discussing it in 2018. Now we're still discussing it. So that's 10, 12 12 years.
Do you know a lot of people that have been here for like a really amount of time, or like someone that has been here since it was built?
Quite a few. I'm not sure that there are that many left from when it was built, but there's quite a few who've lived here since the 70s or 80s. Yeah.
Okay. And also something that we were talking about. So when there was this crisis in the 70s and people started moving out, what was the response like to bring people in?
Yeah, part of it was this right of referral for the municipality, that they could refer people who were in acute need of housing to housing units here. That
so usually
people who were homeless, who had just gotten through a divorce, who were mentally ill, who were who had typically had some kind of social problems, who had to kind of find a place to live fast.
So, like my question with this is, wasn't this social problems that are happening now? Couldn't it have been predicted? Like, if you were bringing.
That's also part of the criticism that some people have of the situation before, like in the 80s and 90s, was that we could have done a lot before to prevent this development of the estate, but no one really cared enough or knew enough about this to do something at the time. And that kind of leaves us with a lot of problems today that we have to handle in these very expensive ways, so to speak, because it's a several billion kroner project. Yeah.
So if this happened before, could it happen again? Could it be happening right now? Like with the solutions, like is it going to only create a problem that it needs solving for the next 30 years or something?
It might. Some people talk about places like Aarhus Ø or some of the new apartments, places where they build a lot of apartments, like in Vejlby, or some of these places, that they might in the future be the slums of the future, right? Okay. Because they're built very close to each other. In opposition to Gellerup, so they cast shadow on each other. They feel cramped. The apartments are smaller quite often, not necessarily on Aarhus Ø because they have very big, prestigious buildings as well. But there's a lot of this more, what could you call it, compressed way of building today, where you build smaller units, you build less outside space. There's not a lot of space between the buildings. They're often built so there's wind tunnels, like so it's cold between the buildings. There's shadow, and it's spaces that are not necessarily nice to be in or to stay in for a long time. So you might live there for like 1 or 2 years and people move out again. And I heard that in some of these new estates, they actually pay people or give people free rent for a couple of months. Really? Just to get people to live there. So there might be an issue in places like that, or there might not. It also depends on the housing market in Aarhus in general, because the people who invest in these buildings, of course, believe that they will be able to let them out. So again, it's difficult to answer the question, but I think in general it's difficult to plan on this scale, and it's difficult to plan how people move around, and also because one of the issues of the whole housing market dynamics is that it's very difficult, or at least the politicians are not very interested in forcing middle class citizens to move anywhere. So we're always like pushing the people who are on the lower levels around. But as long as we do that, we're just moving them around. And everyone is. There's this called the NIMBY effect. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's called Not in My Backyard. Okay. Which kind of means that most people will think that it's fine that you have places where, like Gellerup, or that you have like an institution for criminals or something, but you don't want it right next to where you live. So someone else will have to solve that problem.
Yeah.
And it's a very general thing for a lot of people, I think. And you could see it when they tried in the municipality to change the school districts to like include Gellerup in Uge22, which is a more wealthy neighborhood. But there were so many protests from the parents.
Really?
That they had to cancel the plans to change it. And that kind of also shows you that it's very difficult to push around the middle class. Because politicians don't want to be the ones who try to push the middle class into doing something they don't want to do, because that will create a different type of process and a different kind of problems, and it's their votes that'll be going away.
I don't have words.
It's, something at least is about the votes. It's very complicated. But this is actually over here is a new library.
This is the new library. Yeah, it looks
very nice.
Yes.
Also,
such a difference from the old
one.
Yeah.
But again, it's funny because here we're actually standing right next to one of the old buildings again, like the swimming stadium.
I heard that didn't go so well.
Well, they're also planning on like a new bathing place. So it's going to be replaced at some point. But it's actually been here for quite a long time. When it was built, it had a glass roof. But it was very expensive to
maintain. Yeah, and everything. I can imagine.
So, so where we're at now is Complexions Boulevard, which is like the new main street going from City West down here to Basarvest up here.
Yeah.
And this is actually one of the first. It was one of the first blocks that was demolished. Was here. And now there's student housing.
Okay.
What you can see here is student housing. Behind it is the old Heyerdahls College, which was also student housing, which is going to be demolished.
Okay. So this whole part, or only this building?
This building is new, so it's going to stay. But behind it, you can see like there's fences there. And then there are some lower concrete buildings that they have been empty for years. So they're just waiting to be demolished. Yeah. So now we're at the rooftop at the municipal building called Complexions, which is a new building also. It was finished about 3 years ago. And there's a lot of offices here for social services and technical administrative departments of the municipality. And it's basically it's a building where you can go in and you can sit at a cafe, or you can use some of the facilities of the building. And as you can see, there's a really nice view of the area here. And here you can really get an impression of what was
so big.
What has changed.
Yeah.
Because you can almost, I guess you can see what is new and what is old by looking at the roofs. And all of this here, if we look straight down until where we started, actually you can see the grey building.
Yeah.
That is where we started. But all of that from the white building we can see there and up to here is new.
Okay.
You can also see the building down here. And on the other side of the buildings here, you can see the tower cranes. And then you can see the view that people have from the apartments high up all over the city.
Yeah, quite nice.
Which are very nice. And down here is the Brabant Lake.
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice. You can see it.
See going out all the way here, so you can see there's actually there's a lot of nice views.
Yeah.
Actually, from a lot of the apartments. So it is actually situated quite well also in the landscape, as I also talked about before. So there are a lot of qualities also in that, I think.
And there's some construction happening there.
Yes,
do you know?
I honestly don't know the building here. I've lost touch a bit with what is going on because I work on something else currently.
Yeah, but it's quite visible, and the thing that we were talking before, that it's also not nice for someone that is living here to feel like it's only temporary, it's only always transitioning.
And there's an emotional dimension also in that, I think, is that everything's changing around you, and particularly some of the young people who grew up here and who were used to running around in the park and playing, they talked about this feeling of loss or like losing places that they used to play, or they used to hang out, or they used to be quite a big part of their lives, and now they were gone. Like buildings where their friends had lived, and now the building was gone. And I actually felt like this emotional loss in a sense, even though they could see some of the logics and they did understand some of the reasons why this was happening. It still felt strange to them. And I think there's a lot of, I have some of the quotes I normally use in my presentations. I have one from an older man who said that the bird song had gone, and he didn't want to say anything bad about the whole process or anything, or about the municipality or anything, but it was just a very strong feeling for him, the thing that he was so used to the birds outside in the park area before, but now when it's a building site there were no bird sounds anymore. And that's quite something you don't think about normally, that there's bird song or whether there is bird song or it's not bird song, but when it's missing for a long time, then you start thinking about what's happening. It feels strange, I think, and I think this way of everything changing around you, it makes some people at least feel strange about life, and it can be difficult to
you don't want instability. Like
a lot of people like stability. They like predictability. They like to know what's happening, and to feel that they are part of the landscape they're living in. And I think that's also, of course, the case for a lot of people living in Gellerup. And it's not necessarily because you don't want change. It's about a lot of this. There's so much change. And it's
too much.
It's very transformative. It is really transforming the estate, which you can see here is literally being changed as we speak, because they're building and they're demolishing over here. Actually, if you
then we can
around, you can see the buildings being demolished.
So this is what you were talking about before.
What we couldn't see that they're demolishing now is the old student housing units over there.
They're starting already.
Yeah, but they've been empty for quite some time.
Okay.
I think. So it's probably about time a little bit.
And do you know what is gonna be there?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I think it's lower. I think it's kind of terraced housing style, because this is kind of on the corner of the area, so you can more easily make something that feels a bit more private in this corner, I think. But I'm not completely sure. And there were also some plans for some houses, as we were talking before. Do you happen to know where would it be? Like I think part of it is actually meant to be over there. But again, I'm not entirely sure of the new plans or how they are, how the details are. So we're at the Basarvest, which has been here for quite some time, also before.
From the beginning, or?
Not from the beginning. Well, the building has been there from before, I think. But the way that it is now, like a bazaar with shops and small cafes and that kind of stuff, it's been there for 25, maybe 30 years. No, 25 years, I think. So there's a lot of small businesses here, a lot of also some people, of course, living in Gellerup who have small businesses here, and a lot of people go grocery shopping, go to hang out in the bazaar.
And do you know why it was decided to have this? Because it's not a very common place.
The developer who owns the buildings decided to make this, to try it out, I guess, also to offer some of the people living here the chance of like building a small business. It's called Del.3, who's like the developer who owns it. So he was a bit, you could say he's actually a bit ahead of his time in a way.
25 years.
Yeah, because of course it's not, it still looks almost like it did 25 years ago. But now we have street food, which is a huge success in Aarhus. And I think this of course has a bit of street food about it. it isn't the same thing because there's also a lot of other businesses here, but it's still a place where a lot of people will go. Also on bus trips, they will go to see the bazaar. So it's a place that also attracts people from other parts of the city and other parts of the country.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
one of the first places where they made something like this in Denmark,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, so now we crossed the road. Now we're actually in Toveshøj, which is the less talked about part of what is actually, if we use the official name, it's called Gellerup Toveshøj, which are two separate departments of the Brabant Housing Association. Gellerup is Department 4, this is Department 5, so they are separate entities, but when you look at the ghetto list, they are considered as one. But Toveshøj this is also where I grew up, behind that building there.
Is it still there? Or
Yeah,
was
the building is still there.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but it's similar to these. It's a block like the one you can see here. So very similar to this, and I used to play quite a lot on the playground, which has also changed now. But here was like the central playground of the area.
You mentioned before that people had a lot of like a strong emotional attachment to these places that were being demolished or changed or whatever.
Yeah.
Did it also happen to you? Does it also happen to you?
I don't know. I think it's quite a long time ago for me. I think I lived there from I was 6 till I was 10, more or less. And of course, I do remember a lot of it. And but it's not
a crucial.
It's not a crucial thing in that sense because I've lived just as long in several other places. So it's I think that emotional connection. Of course, I can recognize the feeling of feeling connected to the place somewhat. And I also feel, because I've spent a lot of time here as a researcher and working as a professional, and that also kind of that is also with me when I'm here. But I think for me it's also listening to people's stories about the attachment they feel to the estate is recognizable, of course, because I know the feeling. I know the feeling of being connected to it. But yeah. But I don't know if I would. I thought about whether I could remember which number I used to live in, but I can't because the number doesn't fit with where I thought it would be when I last checked. So I'm not even sure I can point out the exact place where I lived. So it's
well, you were quite young.
Years ago, I was quite young. But I do remember these places, and what we see here behind us is like the communal facilities for Toveshøj, which is called Laden or the barn.
And what do they have here? It's like a cultural
activities made by the residents. So there's a lot of options of making use of the facilities here.
And so, as you mentioned before, that Gellerup has its own facilities. It's like it can do whatever you want here.
Yeah.
Is it the same here, or do they use the same facilities?
Yeah, well, like there's no shopping here, or like there's a bazaar, of course, next door, but otherwise people will have to go to City West, and like the facilities that are like the library and so on are in Gellerup. So a lot of the facilities that are in Gellerup are also servicing Toveshøj. So Toveshøj is smaller in many ways, and as you can see, the buildings are not as tall as they were in Gellerup. So it is a bit more intimate in some ways, and it's more.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and showing us around. It was a pleasure to learn more about it and everything. Okay, so thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.